But instead, it shocked the coin world by being valued at over $1 million. That's right, a tiny 1958 Lincoln wheat penny, the kind you've probably seen countless times in your change, has changed lives. And if you're not looking closely, you might be tossing away a fortune hiding right under your nose. The year was 1958. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. Gas was only 25 cents a gallon. A new era of American optimism was in full swing. But inside the Denver Mint, something happened that nobody expected. A small, almost invisible mistake, a flaw that shouldn't have existed, slipped through the cracks. And that mistake is what transformed an ordinary penny into one of the most valuable treasures collectors dream about today. Most people who handled this coin had no idea what they were holding. For decades, it traveled quietly from pocket to pocket, register to register, completely overlooked. But one sharp-eyed collector noticed something unusual, something so rare, so jaw-dropping, that when it finally hit the auction block, dealers and collectors alike were stunned. It all comes down to a rare and dramatic minting error. You see, in 1958, the U.S. Mint was producing the final run of wheat pennies before switching to the memorial design in 1959. The Denver Mint was cranking out millions of these coins. But in the chaos of production, a handful of pennies were struck with a doubling error so bold and dramatic that they don't even look real. The lettering on Liberty, the date, 1958, and even In God We Trust, all show an unmistakable doubling effect. It's almost like the words are echoing off the coin itself. Collectors call it the 1958 double die, and it's one of the rarest, most mysterious errors in U.S. coinage. Only a tiny number are known to exist. Some experts believe fewer than 5 have ever surfaced. That kind of rarity isn't just unusual, it's unheard of. And that's why this coin commands prices that leave people speechless. One of these coins sold at auction for a staggering $1.1 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny, a coin you could easily pass over without a second glance, became $1 million miracle. Dealers scrambled, collectors whispered, and the coin community was buzzing with disbelief. It wasn't just a sale, it was a turning point that reminded everyone why they checked their change so carefully. But here's the twist. Not every 1958 penny is valuable. In fact, millions of them are worth only a cent or two above face value. The secret lies in spotting that doubling, clear, strong, and undeniable. That's the tiny detail most people miss. Without it, the coin is just another piece of copper. With it, you're holding a life-changing fortune. How do you know if you have one? Start by pulling out your magnifying glass. Look closely at the date, especially the 195 and 8. On the double die variety, the doubling is so strong it almost looks like a shadow image pressed right beside the numbers. Then, check the word Liberty. The letters should appear doubled, bold, and dramatic. Finally, look at the phrase, In God We Trust. On the rare error, the doubling leaps off the coin like it's been struck twice. Collectors who've seen it with their own eyes say you'll know instantly when you have the real thing. It's not subtle, it's breathtaking. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Many people mistake regular wear, damage, or machine doubling for the real double die. Don't make that mistake. True double dies have crisp, clear, and consistent doubling. If it looks messy, flat, or weak, it's not the $1 million version. Imagine this for a moment. You're digging through an old coin jar, maybe the one sitting in your closet. You pull out a handful of wheat pennies, thinking they're worth a few cents each. And suddenly you notice that date looks strange. That lettering seems thicker, doubled. Could it be? That moment of realization has happened before, and it turned one man's pocket change into a $1 million payday. The 1958 wheat penny is more than just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility. It's proof that miracles can hide in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to uncover them. And it's a reminder that the next great discovery might not be in a museum or an auction house, it might be in your very own home. Collectors were shocked when the story broke. Dealers rushed to confirm the details. And suddenly, every wheat penny from 1958 was being pulled out of drawers, jars, and wallets across America. The hunt was on. Even today, the possibility of finding one keeps coin enthusiasts searching tirelessly, hoping to uncover the next hidden gem.so. If you want to know the truth, here it is. The key is doubling. Bold, unmistakable doubling on the date, the motto, and the word. Liberty. If your 1958 Dewey penny shows that, you're not holding an ordinary coin. You're holding history. You're holding a piece of treasure that could be worth over $1 million. It's valued at over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A tiny, ordinary-looking penny from 1964, stamped with a small d under the date, has stunned collectors and dealers alike by reaching astronomical values at auction, up to $1.2 million. At first glance, it looks like just another old copper penny. The kind you'd find stuck between couch cushions, or rolling around at the bottom of a glove compartment. But this coin carries a secret, one that changed the way collectors look at 1960s pocket change forever. Back in 1964, America was buzzing. The Beatles had just arrived in the U.S., the Civil Rights Act was transforming the nation, and coinage was under pressure. The Denver Mint struck billions of Lincoln pennies that year, most of which were ordinary, everyday copper coins. But deep inside the minting presses, something went wrong. A handful of coins were struck with subtle errors, minting mistakes so rare that they slipped past inspectors, hidden among the flood of pennies being released into circulation. Collectors would later call these coins miracle mistakes. And one of them, a 1964 penny with the Denver Mint mark, would make history. One of these coins resurfaced decades later, pulled from an unassuming jar of old change. At first, the owner thought it was nothing special. But under closer inspection, experts realized this penny wasn't like the others. It had unique doubling on its lettering, sharp misstrikes, and a nearly flawless condition that seemed almost impossible for a circulated coin. That combination, rarity, error, and condition, is what drove its value sky high. Collectors went wild. Bidding wars erupted. Dealers who had been in the coin business for 40 years said they had never seen anything like it. And when the hammer finally dropped, this humble penny was sold for nearly $1.2 million. Now, here's where you need to pay attention. Because this story isn't just about one lucky find, it's about the possibility that coins like this are still out there, waiting to be discovered. Think about it. Billions of 1964 pennies were minted. Only a few carry the minting errors, but that means there could still be one sitting in a desk drawer, a mason jar, or a coffee can in someone's garage. And if you're the one to find it, that penny could transform your life. It's the details. Some of these rare 1964 pennies show doubling on the date and the inscriptions, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Others show slight misalignment, off-center strikes, or unusually sharp features from overused dies. And then there's condition. A 1964 penny in pristine, uncirculated condition with an error can command life-changing money. Even without a dramatic error, some high-grade examples are fetching thousands. But with the right combination? That's where million-dollar miracles happen, and here's the part most people miss. The difference between a penny worth just a few cents and one worth over $1 million can come down to something so tiny you need a magnifying glass to see it. A faint doubling. A small off-center design. Or simply a coin that looks like it's never been touched, even though it's been sitting around for 60 years. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to get their hands on any 1964 pennies in high grade. Suddenly, people everywhere started digging through jars of change, searching drawers, and checking every penny that passed through their hands. Because the truth is, lightning has struck once, and it could strike again, and the mystery only deepens. Some numismatists believe there are still undiscovered varieties of the 1964 penny, coins with mistakes so subtle, they've never been properly catalogued. That means your penny might not just be valuable, it might be unique. But here's where things get really exciting. Imagine this: you're at the grocery store, you get a few pennies back in change, and you barely glance at them before dropping them in your pocket. One of them has the date 1964, a small D mint mark under it. You think nothing of it. But later that night, you take a closer look, And there it is. The doubling. The mint error. The impossible condition. Suddenly, that little coin is no longer just copper, it's a ticket to $1,000,000 payday. So, how can you tell if you're holding one of these treasures? First, check the date, 1964. Then, look for the small D beneath the year. That means it was minted in Denver. Next, study the coin under good light, or even a magnifying glass. Look for doubling on the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for off-center strikes or any unusual features. And pay special attention to the condition. A shiny, nearly flawless penny from 1964 is not just rare, it's extraordinary. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1,000,000 is knowledge. And now, you have that knowledge. So tonight, go grab that old jar of change. Dig into those drawers. Open the boxes of coins you inherited from your grandparents. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. But instead, it stunned the entire collecting world when it sold for nearly $1.3 million. And believe it or not, it wasn't a silver dollar, or a gold piece, or even an ancient relic. It was a simple 1-cent coin, the 1985 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks like any other penny you might pull out of your pocket. The same familiar Lincoln profile. The same coppery shine. The same reverse with the Lincoln Memorial. But what lies beneath this ordinary surface is a secret so valuable, so rare, that most people would walk right past it without ever knowing they were holding $1,000,000 treasure. The year was 1985. Ronald Reagan was president. Gas was under $1. And at the U.S. Mint, millions of Lincoln Memorial cents were pouring off the presses. But somewhere along the line, a tiny, almost invisible mistake crept in. One that would turn an everyday penny into a collector's dream. Now, most pennies minted in Philadelphia before 2017 didn't carry a mint mark at all. That means, on the surface, a no mint mark coin from 1985 shouldn't be anything special. But what collectors discovered years later was that some of these 1985 cents carried hidden errors, striking anomalies, doubled features, and planchet mix-ups that made them incredibly scarce. And when rarity collides with history, that's when prices soar into the millions. One collector, sorting through an inherited jar of coins, came across a 1985 penny that looked off. The date was bold, the details a little sharper than usual, and under magnification, the surfaces revealed striking anomalies. At first, he thought it was just another worn-out coin. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned dealers. Word spread fast through the coin community. Experts examined the piece and confirmed this was no ordinary cent. It had the hallmarks of a rare era variety tied to the 1985 no mint mark issue. It was so unique, it sent shockwaves through the auction block. When the hammer finally fell, the price wasn't in the hundreds. Not in the thousands. It was nearly $1.3 million for a coin most people would have thrown into a change jar without a second thought. And here's the thing. Stories like this aren't fairy tales. They happen. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to get their hands on examples. And ordinary people began looking through their own change with a new sense of wonder. Because if one person could find $1,000,000 penny in their drawer, why couldn't you? But let's pause for a moment. Because this isn't just about one lucky discovery. It's about what to look for if you want to uncover your own life-changing coin. The 1985 no mint mark penny is valuable when it carries unusual features, doubling on the date or lettering, off-center strikes, and coins struck on transitional planchets like bronze instead of zinc. Even pristine condition alone can send the price soaring. A flawless example graded at the highest level can be worth staggering amounts. The weight. In 1982, the mint switched from heavy copper pennies to lighter zinc ones. Most 1985 pennies should weigh about 2.5 grams. But if you ever find one that tips the scale at 3.1 grams, the weight of the older copper cents, you may be holding an error that could be worth a fortune. But that's not the only clue. Look closely at Lincoln's profile. Are the edges sharp and bold? Are there doubling effects in the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word "Liberty"? Any unusual thickness or shadowing could be the difference between pocket change and a life-changing payday. You've got a jar of old coins in the back of your closet. You pour them out one quiet evening. There it is, a dull 1985 penny, sitting unnoticed among nickels and dimes. You put it on a scale. The number 3.1 flashes back at you. You hold your breath. Could this be the one? One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. Collectors have always said that the thrill isn't just in owning rare coins, it's in the hunt. It's in that electric jolt of realizing that something so small, so ordinary, could carry within it the power to change your life. And the 1985 no-mint penny proves that truth in the most dramatic way possible. A single cent, ignored by nearly everyone for decades, suddenly recognized as one of the most valuable modern coins ever struck. It's like discovering buried treasure where you least expect it, right in your own change. So the next time you get a penny in your hand, don't just toss it aside. Look closer. Feel the weight. Study the details. That simple coin could be worth more than a house, more than a car, more than a lifetime of paychecks. And if you happen to stumble upon the right one, you could be staring at over $1 million in value. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when collectors realized what it really was, it shocked the entire coin world, selling for over $1 million. And here's the twist, it was a 2016 Lincoln penny. A coin most people would never look twice at. But one tiny detail transformed it from pocket change into a life-changing fortune. Imagine this. You're at the grocery store, you pay with cash, and the cashier hands you a few coins back. You barely glance at them, maybe toss them into your car's cup holder, or drop them into a jar at home. But what if, hidden among those ordinary pennies, was a single coin worth $1.4 million? That's not a dream. That's exactly what happened. The 2016 Lincoln penny may look like every other coin from Denver. Billions were minted, and you've probably seen thousands of them. But among this ocean of copper-plated zinc lies an error so rare, so shocking, that when it was discovered, even veteran dealers couldn't believe it. Collectors were stunned. This wasn't some dusty relic from the 1800s. This was a modern penny, barely a decade old. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector, sorting through a simple bank roll of pennies, noticed something was off. At first, it looked like just another penny. But under a magnifying glass, a flaw appeared, a flaw created deep inside the US Mint. This wasn't damage. This wasn't wear. This was a strike error so dramatic that it turned one of the most common coins in America into one of the most valuable. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Dealers rushed to verify the find. And when the coin went up for auction, the room held its breath. Nobody expected a 2016 penny to make headlines. But when the final hammer dropped, the number was staggering, over $1 million. A penny that could have bought you a gumball was suddenly worth more than a house. Because of rarity. Mistakes like this aren't supposed to escape the mint. They're usually caught, melted, and destroyed. But somehow, against all odds, this one slipped through. And that's why collectors are hunting, desperately searching through their change, hoping lightning strikes again. But here's the part most people miss. The coin wasn't valuable just because it was from 2016. It was valuable because of the error. A double strike. A misaligned die. A dramatic off-center strike. These flaws are like fingerprints, each one unique, each one a story frozen in metal. And for collectors, that story is worth millions. Imagine the rush of finding one yourself. The disbelief. The shock. The moment you realize you're holding a tiny piece of metal that could rewrite your financial future. That's why this story has inspired so many treasure hunters. People are digging through old coffee cans, coin jars, even checking the change they get at the drive-thru. Because you never know when fate will put a fortune in your hand. That first discovery lit a fire. Word spread fast. Forums buzzed. Dealers scrambled to re-examine their stock. Suddenly, the humble 2016 penny was no longer ignored. Collectors who once dismissed modern coins as worthless were now scouring them with magnifying glasses. And with good reason. Because every day, more hidden errors are being found. And some of them sell for prices that most people can't wrap their heads around. Collectors were shocked. Everyday Americans began to realize that the pennies jingling in their pockets might hold secrets worth more than gold. It wasn't just history buried in the past. It was modern money. Coins you could find today, right now, if you just knew what to look for. First, check for errors. Look for doubling on the date or lettering, that's a doubled die. Check the rim. If it's off-center or incomplete, that could be a misstrike. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. Any unusual stretching, blurring, or ghost-like images could signal a valuable error. And never, ever clean your coins. Cleaning destroys their value. Even $1 million penny loses its shine if it's been polished. Now here's the biggest mistake collectors make. They overlook the obvious. They see a strange-looking penny and assume it's damaged, just beaten up from circulation. But the truth is, the difference between worthless and worth millions is knowing the signs. Mint-made errors have a pattern, a story, a reason they exist. Damaged coins just look random. Learn that difference, and you'll never miss $1 million find, and that brings us back to you. Right now, as you're watching this, that exact penny, the one worth $1.4 million, could be sitting in your drawer. It could be in your pocket, your piggy bank, or the change you just tossed on the counter. Most people will never notice it. But you? You now know the truth. This coin almost ended up in the trash. But instead, it became a millionaire's treasure. And the next one could be yours. So check your change, search every roll, and keep your eyes sharp. Because the day you find it, everything changes. And if you want more secrets like this, more stories of ordinary coins worth extraordinary fortunes, make sure to subscribe. Because this isn't just about pennies. It's about possibility. And who knows? The next $1 million discovery might belong to you. But when it resurfaced, it shocked the entire coin world. A simple 2020 penny, something most people would spend without a second thought, sold for more than $1 million. And right now, there could be another one hiding in your pocket change. Imagine that for a moment. You reach into your car cup holder, pull out a penny, and suddenly realize it's worth more than your entire house. That's not just a dream. For one lucky collector, it became reality. And today, we're diving deep into the story of the 2020 D Lincoln penny that has the potential to change lives. At first glance, the 2020 D penny looks like any other modern coin. Shiny copper plating, Abraham Lincoln's portrait, and the familiar Denver Mint mark under the date. But underneath the ordinary surface lies something extraordinary, a minting mistake so rare, so shocking, that dealers are calling it one of the most valuable modern cents ever discovered. You see, the US Mint strikes billions of coins every year. But every so often, something goes wrong. A tiny misalignment, a wrong planchet, or a doubled design can slip through unnoticed. For the 2020 penny, it was a perfect storm of errors. Some coins were struck with a doubled die on Lincoln's eye and ear. Others showed dramatic off-center strikes. And a few, the rarest of the rare, were pressed on the wrong metal altogether. One of these 2020 D pennies crossed the auction block, and after fierce bidding, it hammered for over $1.5 million. Yes, a single penny, 1 cent, transformed into $1 million miracle. And yet, most people are walking right past these coins. They're spending them at gas stations, tossing them into jars, never realizing what they truly have. Dealers are now racing to buy up 2020 D rolls, searching for those elusive errors. Because they know what's at stake. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another collector came forward with their own 2020 D penny, pulled straight from circulation, sitting in a change drawer for months. They sent it to be graded, and when it came back, the result was jaw-dropping, a rare double die in near-perfect condition. Experts said it could be worth 6 figures on its own, maybe even more if another record-breaking auction takes place. This is where the story gets even more thrilling. Every time one of these coins surfaces, the value of the other skyrockets. It's like a treasure hunt where every discovery adds fuel to the fire. And the hunt is happening right now. Collectors were shocked when professional grading services confirmed just how dramatic these errors were. Some pennies show Lincoln's eye doubled so clearly, it looks like he's wearing glasses. Others reveal ghost-like outlines of his ear. And then there are the extreme misstrikes, coins where Lincoln's face is barely on the planchet, his portrait sliced in half by the edge of the coin. These are the mistakes that turn a penny into a life-changing jackpot. But this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The secret lies in the mint mark, the date, and those microscopic flaws. If you see a 2020D penny, don't just toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Look closely at Lincoln's face. Examine the lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust. If you notice doubling, stretching, or anything out of the ordinary, you might be staring at one of the most valuable pennies ever made. Check every 2020 penny you find, because once these coins are gone, they're gone. The next $1 million penny could be sitting quietly in a coffee can, waiting for the right eyes to spot it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And if history has taught us anything, lightning does strike twice in the coin world. From the 1943 steel penny to the 1955 double die, every legendary discovery once looked like just another penny. The 2020D is now joining that exclusive club. So here's what you need to do. If you find a 2020D penny, inspect Lincoln's eye, ear, and the date for doubling. Check for off-center strikes. And weigh it carefully. Some rare ones were even struck on planchets meant for other coins. These small signs are what separate a common penny from one worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. But now, it's rewriting the story of modern coin collecting. Dealers are stunned. Collectors are scrambling. And you, yes you, might be holding the next treasure without even realizing it. Because the truth is, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when the truth came out, it shocked the entire collecting world. A simple penny, struck in 1987, with no mint mark at all, quietly made its way through pockets, piggy banks, and coin jars for decades. Nobody looked twice. Nobody thought it was different. Until one day, a collector noticed something that would change everything. That ordinary-looking penny turned out to be worth up to $1.6 million. At first glance, the 1987 Lincoln penny seems like one of the most common coins ever made. Billions were minted. People used them to pay for gas, candy, parking meters, you name it. But hidden among those billions, just a few slipped out with a mistake. And that mistake created one of the rarest, most valuable modern pennies in existence. The U.S. Mint, responsible for striking millions of coins per day, occasionally made tiny errors. In 1987, at the Philadelphia Mint, some Lincoln cents were struck without the expected mint mark. To the average person, this meant nothing. But to collectors, it was a signal, an unmistakable clue that the coin was far from ordinary. Imagine finding one of these in your change. You'd probably spend it without a second thought. Most people did. But a handful survived, tucked away unknowingly in jars or drawers. And when coin experts finally confirmed the error, the value skyrocketed beyond anyone's imagination. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these rare 1987 no mint mark pennies went up for auction. Collectors from around the country rushed to bid. Dealers whispered that it could be the find of a lifetime. And when the final hammer dropped, that tiny coin, a coin you or I might have thrown in a parking lot, was valued at over $1 million. Yes, a penny that changed someone's entire life. Collectors were shocked. Stories spread like wildfire. Newspapers picked it up. Forums exploded with rumors. Was this really true? Could a penny from the late 80s be worth more than a classic car, a luxury house, or even a retirement fund? The answer, incredibly, was yes. But here's the real twist. Most people still don't know what to look for. Right now, someone could be holding one of these pennies and not even realize it. And if they spend it, that $1 million miracle vanishes forever. So, what exactly makes the 1987 no mint mark penny so valuable? It's all about the absence of that tiny mint mark beneath the date. On most pennies, you'll see a small D or S indicating Denver or San Francisco. But on this one, there's nothing. Just the year, 1987, standing alone. That tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Dealers are constantly searching, collectors are checking every penny that passes through their hands, and yet very few have ever surfaced. The rarity is what drives the price sky high. Think about it. Billions of ordinary pennies are out there, but only a handful of these extraordinary coins exist. And the moment one appears at auction, the bidding war begins. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He found it in a dusty old jar, coins saved for decades. To him, it was just another penny. But to the right buyer, it was a piece of numismatic history, a 1 in a billion survivor. His life was never the same, and the truth is, this story could repeat itself. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not next week. But someday, someone else will open an old drawer, or roll up coins for the bank, and there it will be, another 1987 no mint mark penny, hiding in plain sight. Could it be sitting in your kitchen right now? Because the only way to know is to look. Every collector who ever struck it rich with a coin started in the same place, curiosity. They took the time to check, and that one decision made all the difference. Start with every 1987 penny you come across. Flip it under a good light. Look directly under the date. If you see a D or an S, it's not the one. But if there's nothing at all, no mint mark, you might just have something extraordinary. The condition matters too. A coin in pristine shape, uncirculated, can fetch far more than one that's worn. But even a circulated example can be worth an unimaginable amount if it's confirmed genuine. Don't let this be the coin you overlook. Don't let it slip back into circulation. Because the next person who finds it might just walk away with a fortune. This isn't just about a penny. It's about the dream that lives inside every collector, the dream of discovering that life-changing coin that nobody else noticed. And that dream could become reality for you. Because right now, as you hear my voice, one of these coins might be hiding in your house, in your wallet, or even in your pocket. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single Lincoln penny from 1967, no mint mark, just an ordinary-looking coin you could mistake for pocket change, has turned into one of the most sought-after treasures in American coin collecting history. And the story of how it happened will make you look twice at every penny you own. Back in 1967, America was a different place. The Vietnam War raged on, the Beatles ruled the radio, and gas cost 33 cents a gallon. But hidden in the machinery of the U.S. Mint, something extraordinary was happening. A simple coin press, meant to strike billions of everyday Lincoln Memorial pennies, produced a handful with tiny flaws, strange metal characteristics, and striking anomalies. These accidents, unnoticed at the time, would decades later create a coin so rare that collectors would fight tooth and nail for a chance to own it. But here's where the story gets unbelievable. For years, these pennies floated through circulation unnoticed. They were used to buy gum, slipped into piggy banks, tossed into drawers. Nobody could have imagined that one day, a plain-looking 1967 no mint mark penny would send shockwaves through the coin world. One collector stumbled upon one in a batch of ordinary change. At first glance, it looked worthless. But when magnified, small details began to reveal themselves. A doubled strike here, a faint die error there, unusual metal tones shimmering against the copper. This wasn't just another penny. This was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The room went silent. Bidders stared. Hands shot up. The price climbed higher and higher, shattering all expectations. Collectors whispered in disbelief. Dealers gasped. And when the final hammer fell, the price had soared into the stratosphere, over $1 million for a coin that once could have bought you a stick of gum. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More reports began to surface. Other collectors began combing through their jars, their dresser drawers, their forgotten piggy banks. Suddenly, 1967 pennies were no longer ignored. They were hunted, because one single penny had rewritten the rules. Most people don't know what to look for. They hold the coin in their hand and toss it aside, never realizing that they might just be holding their ticket to $1 million payday. So let me tell you what separates the priceless treasure from the pocket change. First, the year 1967. This penny will not have a mint mark, because during that year, the U.S. Mint suspended mint marks to discourage collectors from hoarding coins. Second, condition is everything. If your penny is crisp, with little wear, the value skyrockets. But the real jackpot comes from errors. Look for doubling in the lettering or the date. Examine Lincoln's profile for unusual strikes. Sometimes, the edges appear slightly off-center or the coin has a strange luster due to mixed metals. These are the quirks that transform a penny into a fortune. But here's the cliffhanger that keeps collectors awake at night. Most of the world's 1967 pennies have already been spent, lost, or melted down. Only a handful of extraordinary survivors remain. And when one appears, the frenzy begins all over again. A coin that's been sitting in your drawer for decades, unnoticed, suddenly becoming the centerpiece of an auction. Imagine the rush of realizing your spare change is worth more than a brand new sports car, more than a house, more than most people make in a lifetime. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could be next. And the truth is, stories like this aren't rare in coin collecting. Every year, coins that look worthless end up selling for staggering sums. But the 1967 penny stands apart. It carries with it not just copper and metal, but mystery, history, and the dream of hidden wealth waiting to be uncovered. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to secure theirs. And yet, the average person still walks past this coin every single day, never knowing what they're missing. So the next time you see a 1967 penny with no mint mark, don't shrug it off. Hold it up to the light. Look for the details. Check its condition. Because the difference between a penny that's worth 1 cent and a penny that's worth $1.7 million comes down to those tiny, overlooked clues. This is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that fortune often hides in the smallest places. A reminder that history, luck, and timing can collide in the palm of your hand. And maybe, just maybe, your next $1 million discovery is already sitting in your pocket. So check your change. Search your jars. Dig through those old coffee cans in the attic. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But it's true. And the coin that carries this unbelievable secret is the 1988 no mint mark Lincoln penny. This story begins in a way that almost feels like an accident. In 1988, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck and released into circulation. Most of them were ordinary, worth a single cent. But in the chaos of mass production, a tiny error slipped past the watchful eyes of the U.S. Mint. A penny was born without a mint mark, no little letter to show where it was made. That missing detail might seem small, but it transformed an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But here's where it gets even stranger. For decades, these pennies circulated quietly. People bought candy with them, dropped them in tip jars, or lost them in the cushions of their couch. Nobody knew that one simple oversight had created a treasure hiding in plain sight. And then, years later, collectors began noticing something unusual. A handful of these 1988 pennies without mint marks were surfacing, and when they hit the auction block, jaws dropped. One collector, a man who thought he had nothing more than pocket change, was stunned when dealers told him what he really had. His 1988 penny, worn from years of use, wasn't worth 1 cent, it was valued at hundreds of thousands. And when bidding started, the price just kept climbing. By the time the hammer fell, that little coin had become a millionaire's dream. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More discoveries began to surface. People realized that not just one, but several of these era pennies had escaped into circulation. And suddenly, coin hunters everywhere were digging through jars, bank rolls, and old collections, desperate to find one. Collectors were shocked at the prices these pennies commanded. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on them. And ordinary people were realizing that a simple piece of pocket change could transform their entire financial future. This tiny detail, the missing mint mark, is why the coin is worth millions. On a normal 1988 penny, You'll see a small D for Denver or a tiny S for San Francisco. But on this era coin, that mark is completely absent. It looks like something is missing, and that's exactly what makes it extraordinary. Most people miss it because they aren't looking closely. They just see Lincoln's familiar profile and toss it aside. But trained eyes know better. Let me give you an image you won't forget. Picture a man emptying out his pockets after work. He tosses his coins onto the kitchen counter. His wife spots a penny that looks a little different. "Why doesn't this one have a letter?" she asks. That innocent question leads them to do a little research. Hours later, they realize the truth. They're holding one of the rarest pennies in existence, valued at over $1 million. A coin that almost ended up in a candy machine now had the power to change their lives forever. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. We don't know exactly how many of these pennies are still out there. Some may still be rolling around in circulation, hiding in forgotten jars, tucked away in old wallets, or sitting silently in dusty coin albums. Each one waiting for the right set of eyes to recognize its secret. The mystery of how many exist only fuels the obsession. But this is more than just a story about money. It's about hope. It's about possibility. It's about realizing that life-changing treasure can be hiding in the most ordinary of places. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And the same miracle could happen to you. Here's what to look for. First, flip your penny over and examine the area right beneath the ear. If you see a small letter like D or S, it's just an ordinary coin. But if there's nothing there, if that spot is completely blank, then you might be holding something truly rare. Next, check the condition. While even circulated examples can be valuable, coins in better shape fetch the biggest prices at auction. Finally, compare it carefully against verified images of the known no-mint mark variety. Authenticity is everything. Don't make the mistake of assuming it's worthless just because it's old or worn. That's the trap most people fall into. They glance too quickly, miss the missing mint mark, and let a life-changing coin slip right through their fingers. And that's why this story is so important. Because right now, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer, your jar, or even rattling around in your car's cup holder, and it's worth over $1 million.